19th of August 2023. In this news flash I want to talk about a statement by Jens Stoltenberg. I saw this tweet from Victor 55. Stoltenberg stated that they are ready for a nuclear war to destroy Russia. The NATO-backed Atlantic Council says the US and its allies must be prepared to fight a limited nuclear war on two fronts in East Asia. An anonymous US intelligence official, quoted as calling a Chinese or North Korean nuclear strike in response to a US war rational. Now, one thing that you must take note of, that warmongers in the shithouse in Washington is preparing the narrative for a nuclear strike against Russia. They're losing pants down in the Ukraine, and now they're talking these nuclear stories. Now I want to take this opportunity to talk about something that I've had commentators asking me about it. Now, Scott Ritter, about a year ago, Scott Ritter one night explained in detail how this thing works. It's called, the Russians called it the dead hand. The dead hand. Now, I'm not going to go too technical into it, but I'll explain the principle. All the major areas and cities of Russia contains sensors that measure seismic activity and measures radioactivity. And these things were set up specifically to track any nuclear strikes on Russia. Now, the moment that that sensor gets an alert, it sends out a message to a control center. And then it must get a response, a specific response, back from that center. And it's a response that can only be sent by a human. Now, if that sensor doesn't get that response, they trigger the dead end, because then it is assumed that Moscow has been struck and Russia must defend. Now, all across the breadth of Russia, from the west coast to the east coast, there are silos that contains missiles. It's called the Tsarina missiles. These missiles don't have a payload, a ballistic payload. They carry communication packets. And those things all launch automatically. And as they fly across Russia, they transmit the launch codes for Russia's nuclear arsenal. Now, it's common knowledge that the Russians has got a hell of a lot of nuclear missiles. Way more than the Americans. A hell of a lot more. And they have got missiles set up for specific strike points in Europe and in America and in Japan. So the Russians are prepared for a sneak attack. And if that sneak attack succeeds and the dead end is triggered, it is out of human control. The whole Russian nuclear arsenal will be launched. That is hundreds of nuclear missiles. There's no way in the world that the Americans will be able to intercept all of it. They cannot. Because for the start, the numbers is just overwhelming. Plus, there is now a lot of those nuclear missiles from Russia that is on this hypersonic platforms, for which there is no answer in the West. And then you must keep in mind that about a month and a half ago, Russia sent all its nuclear submarines into the oceans. Nobody really knows where those things are. And all of them are armed with nuclear missiles and nuclear torpedoes. So that Tsarina missiles that are sending the launch codes out will be communicating with all the Russian nuclear defense systems, plus the Russian Navy, the submarines with nuclear missiles on them. So for Stoltenberg to talk about something stupid for a limited nuclear war on Russia, he is talking through his arse, because a nuclear strike on Russia will be the end of the Northern Hemisphere. And then there is guys, including my pet Nazi, that thinks that the citizens of Europe will flee south and South Africa will be a major destination for millions. The reality is, Khrushchev instructed one of his nuclear scientists to do a scenario for him if this dead hand is ever triggered. And the guy came back and he said, the Northern Hemisphere will be basically destroyed. There's going to be very few people left. But, he said, in about 6 weeks after a strike like that, a nuclear winter will start on the whole Earth. And it will last 100 to 120 years. And the average daily temperature will be in the vicinity of minus 70 degrees. Now think about that. How will the people in the southern hemisphere survive? The people that is left after that nuclear holocaust. How will they survive at minus 70 degrees? No crops will grow, nothing will be there. So, for the American voters, the American public, you need to understand that the warmongers in the shithouse is planning your wipeout. That is what they are planning. And they are preparing the narrative machines for that. The same for the European leadership. They are planning to wipe you all out. Think about this. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. Thank you for your support.